Hi, welcome to Watcher DM. I'm Gabriel. Today, I am finally finishing my kind of deep dive exploration of the Tome of World Building by Matt Finch of Mythmere Games, with an asterisk. so, today, I've gone back to the physical book because the last chapter, today's chapter 15, is the Useful Facts chapter, which is literally 2 pages. So we're going to get through it pretty quick, I think. But there's 2 other things I want to talk about before I close this book for this series for good. And then also, at the end of the video, I'd like to introduce you to the next series I'm going to be working on in this, well, let's call it the Sunday drop kind of series of videos that I've been releasing now for over a year, I think. Have I been doing this for over a year? I think I've been doing this for over a year. Anyway, but let's dig into it. Useful Facts, Chapter 15. The first useful fact it gives you is about water flow. A very basic point about cartography. Water only runs downhill. So even if they meander, rivers run away from the mountains or hills and never cut through mountains or hills. Rivers join, but very seldom split when running downhill. Similarly, lakes usually only have one outbound river, although they can be fed by several rivers. So yeah, a lake is a puddle. Scaled up. Such an obvious statement. The difference between an inner sea and a Great Lake. The Great Lakes, the 5 lakes of Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario, are freshwater, but generally considered inner seas, even though they don't have actual tides. Tidal action isn't the defining factor. The movement of water in the Mediterranean Sea is much more affected by salinity and temperature difference than it is by tides. The total surface area of the 5 Great Lakes is 94,250 square miles, or 121 hexes, according to the hex system that they have in this book. So, whatever. If they were equally sized, that would be an average of 24 hexes. Oh, I see. That'd be 24 hexes per lake. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And the rest of this, I'm not even going to read because it is literally just a list of places and how big they are. So the river lengths gives you the lengths of different rivers in miles. So the Thames River in Britain is 215 miles long, whereas the Amazon River is like almost 4,000 miles long, and the Congo is almost 3,000 miles long. So yeah, the Mississippi River is also almost 4,000 miles long, and the Nile is in fact 4,000 miles long. Which, when I think about it, looking at a map, I don't think I have any good sense of how big the Nile is compared to, like, it's as big as the middle of the U.S., I guess, and plus that's crazy. That's so crazy. It does not feel that way when you look at it on a map, but that's because projection. Look it up. And then the last non-index page of the book is a checklist. This almost seems silly to put in the book, given how much bigger of a checklist they have put in this book. Every single page kind of has this little border down the side with words on it. And in some cases, they are the same words. So a desert, right? There's going to be something in here that says swamp, for sure, and swamp is also on this list. But what this is trying to do is present a list of interesting themes, topics, words you could use as a seed for inspiring your world building or your adventure writing. The Silk Road, the Great Bazaar, a map the players can change, legendary wizards, masks. It's cool. It's fine. I love that he starts with the quote from William Goldman, the author of The Princess Bride. But yeah, that is the whole of chapter 15. Nice, pretty short little call it an add-on chapter. And now I would like to briefly spend a little bit of time talking about the side margins here, the little bars. I have never found a good way of using these, mostly because this book is pretty clunky for the table for me. I don't like use it when I'm running. And when I'm prepping, I don't often find that I'm like, oh, I really need a spark table that's kind of random. That's not to say that it could work. Like, it definitely could. I think I just haven't found the space yet where, like, this is open and I can easily flip around and find something and get inspired by it when I need it. For the most part, my writing practice is, like, fairly structured, and I have often come up with a number of ideas before I've gotten to the point where I'm doing any real writing. And so I think if my volume were to increase to the point where I was running out of ideas, this would be awesome. So if you're in that state, or you just want to drum up some cool ideas, I think you could do a lot worse than flipping through and picking a strategic river crossing, or a citrus orchard, or an alliance of shoemakers. Robalzia Forest. What is Robalzia? I don't even know what that is. Fled across the hills. A trial of a prince. The Cadarthic ciphers. Ooh, Cadarthic ciphers. Okay, I might use that. That's actually pretty cool. The judgment of Mahar. Okay, so some of this stuff, I am going to say, I do have a bit of a qualm here. Some of this stuff is like, and then they made up a pronoun, or they made up a name, they made up a proper noun, and that is like my least favorite trope in fantasy. I know it is super common. I know lots of people like that, so I am probably the odd one out with that, but for me, that is not super useful stuff. I would rather you say it's like the Temple of the Stars than it's the Temple of Utkala. Like, I get it, it's cool, it's evocative, and you're selling the alienness of the thing, or whatever, but for me, I would rather be the GM who comes up with the name of the star and do that work myself. Just a preference thing. All right. That is our total look at the Tome of World Building. Now that we're at the end, I'm going to say, I think this is a book worth having. If you're into world building, you're doing adventure writing, you're doing solo play, and you've got the scratch and want to put it somewhere, I think this is a good investment. Just for the ideas, the tables, the structure, I think you could get a lot of mileage out of this book. That said, unless you are regularly running a campaign with a long, complex world, this is likely going to be too much. This is probably going to be too much material for the average, I run a campaign once every 3 years GM, right, who doesn't need to generate all that much world all that frequently. And so, I am going to be introducing the next book that we'll be covering in the series. Look out, there's a bunch of gravity over there. From Yochai Gal. And I think the newly operational Cairn Press could be. And yeah, the next book I'm going to be covering is the Warden's Guide, 2nd edition for Cairn RPG. And this book is a little treasure trove. I am going to be doing it digitally, so this is just kind of a look at that book, the physical book. Unfortunately, it has the same glue binding situation that the player's book does, which makes it pretty stiff. For it doesn't really stay open at the table. I think Yochai himself actually recommends getting the Lulu version with the ring binding. And I may take him up on that. But this was the Kickstarter reward. But it goes through a whole bit here about setting up kind of the areas, right? So you've got factions, setting seeds. It's a whole section on world building. Topography, And then, yeah, you're kind of making this map as you're going, figuring out your settlements, waypoints, curiosities, lairs, dungeons. Just a ton of things. And then you got your dungeon seeds and principles, the history of the dungeon, the construction, how it got ruined or turned into a dungeon. So yeah, really, really cool book with, I think, a lot to offer. And I recently heard Yohai, I think he was at a conference, a convention, and he was speaking about, I think people were talking about, it's so exciting when people use your adventures or play your game. And Yohai was like, actually, I think he's publishing something from a creator, and the creator made their adventure. It was their first time creating an adventure. It was really, really good. And she created it using the procedures in this book. And he was just so impressed and so happy and elated that somebody had taken the tools that he had made and then made a thing that he then looked at and was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, he was blown away by its quality. And so I think that worth looking into in that regard as well. There's also a whole section in here about forest seeds, so you can get some kind of forests going, which is, I think this is really cool. Actually, doing forests as point crawls is such a smart design. You got a great little POI thing going on. And then part 2 of the book is kind of the Warden's tools, which is like your monsters, making monsters, naming procedures, and just stuff like that. So, and then of course the spell books, the reliquary. And then it closes out with advice and some examples. So I think what I would like to do is go through the world building section of this book in a similar way to what we did for the Tome of Adventure Design and the Tome of World Building, as I think it offers a lot of the same or similar tools. We'll roll some stuff. We'll try and we'll generate some ideas here. Some of it may be physical, especially topography, where it requires a drop table. I may work out doing that on screen with some other tools digitally, if that works better. But that's the plan, is to work through the Cairn Warden's Guide 2nd edition. So stay tuned. Come check us out every Sunday. But help me in saying goodbye to the Tome of World Building. Thank you, Matt Finch, for making an amazing book. It's provided me lots of entertainment, and I think it has also entertained a lot of people here on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching if you watch these videos. If you like these videos, I hope you'll hit the like button. If you want to see more of them, you should subscribe. And if you want to be notified when they're released, hit the bell icon. If you would like to get early access to these videos and more, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/watcherdm, where I'm dropping daily writing exercises and art exercises. I'm working on blogging. I recently have stopped having Austin write the blog posts for the website, although we've still got plenty in the chamber for the email newsletter. So I hope you'll sign up for the email newsletter on watcherdm.com. Of course, you can pick up all of our adventures on watcherdm.com, on Itch, or on Drive-Thru. We've got some games coming out and some other adventures that you probably like. So yeah, help us make cool stuff, please. Thanks for watching. See you later.